Very much. Neda Weisbach in Germany. Listen, we need to pick up on the banking conversation, and joining us now is Christophe Nijdam. He's a banking analyst at Alpha Value, and a reminder as well that our guest host is still with us, John Woods from Citi Private Bank. Get your tweets in at Louisa Boyes, and if you have any questions. Christophe, let's start with a really basic question with regards to the whole potential recapitalization plan for the banks. Is this the right way to go? Because you could argue that it doesn't matter if there's a Tier 1 core capital ratio of 10% or 7% or 12%, that it's about the type of bank it is, the type of assets they hold, and whether or not it needs a good round of restructuring, as you've seen the case for a lot of the healthier banks today versus some of those who are deemed unhealthy.
Well, you know, when there is an overweight problem, Americans tend to buy a larger pair of pants. Europeans, to the contrary, tend to enter into a slim fast diet. So basically what it means is, as an alternative to the recap, European banks could reduce their balance sheet size, killing two birds with one stone. The first bird to be killed would be, of course, by reducing the asset size. You would release, free up equity, answering the solvency concern. The second bird is that, again, by reducing the asset size, you would free up cash, enabling to repay some of the short-term funding, which has been the main cause of this summer liquidity crisis.
So if we see a coordinated recapitalization of Europe's banks, are the problems going to go away? Do we solve the sovereign debt crisis by recapitalizing Europe's banks?
Yes, we do. The question is, how do we do the recap? If we do it by new equity issue, then it's going to be extremely costly, and it won't reduce the liquidity pressure. So that's why the alternative, reducing the asset size, seems to me a better alternative to answer to both concerns, solvency and liquidity.
Maybe to Christophe. Christophe, my question to you is, I mean, we know that banks are in trouble, but do we have a list, in your opinion, of who's next to fail or who will likely survive? I mean, do you have kind of a rough list in mind we can count on?
No, there is no rough list. First of all, please keep in mind that the European Central Bank has said that they will provide unlimited liquidity to the European banking system. So we should not see any bank failure. Keep in mind that even so Dexia had problems, they did not technically fail because the ECB provided them liquidity up to 34 billion euros out of their 96 billion euros in short-term needs. So John, maybe to give some kind of...
Go ahead, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is that the banks that they will not fail, but the one that will need to modify their business model the most will be large European universal banks with bloated trading books out of their New York offices. They are the ones who will need to shrink the balance sheet the most.
Sure, let me throw this question to John. Do you agree with what Christophe just said? And in your opinion, do we still expect another financial crisis, and to what scale and degree?
Well, let me take the second question first. I think the crisis is inevitably a function of or a requirement for fiscal reform and monetary reform in various countries, living beyond their means, racking up debt, unable to effectively service it. That, to me, is the heart of the crisis, and the recapitalization is a symptom of it. So until I think we get some sensible fiscal reform, and that may take many, many years to play through, it's hard for me to understand, or hard for me to see a clear resolution to this crisis. That being said, the recapitalization story is clearly critical to near-term sentiment, I think there's a big challenge at the moment between the French preference for the EFSF and the German preference for private markets and private investors to support capitalisation, and I guess we'll get some clarity on that in the next 2 or 3 weeks ahead of these meetings. But what I can say from the Asian experience is that there was an awful lot of bank mergers and forced mergers in many instances throughout Asia post the Asia crisis, and as a consequence of that we had very sluggish marginal loan growth for the better part of 5 to 7 years thereafter, largely as a lack of appetite to lend, but also very weak demand. And to me that's been one of the lasting effects of the Asia crisis. This is very poor, weak loan demand and a lack of appetite on behalf of banks to extend.
Thank you very much to you both, Christophe Nijdam, the banking analyst at Alpha Value, and John Woods, still staying with us, Chief Investment Officer at Citi Private Bank. I'm just glancing with my left eye on some flashes, just hitting the wire.